the plains of northern India lies Bharatpur Sanctuary, a flat expanse of marsh and woodland. It is small, only 29 square kilometers, and hemmed in by human pressures. Yet it is a place with few parallels anywhere for looking closely at the lives of birds. But that is not all. There is a certain aura, a captivating quality that is unique to Bharatpur. The key to this fascination is the monsoon, the 4 months of rain, sun and heat that hold sway over northern India each year. Bharatpur Sanctuary and its multitude of birds are gifts of the monsoon. This film follows the fortunes of the birds of Bharatpur for 1 year, how they thrive and multiply when the monsoon is bountiful, and what happens to them when the rains fail. Bharatpur's marshes are the focal point for huge flocks of nesting egrets, storks, and other birds during the monsoon, which is in late summer. In winter, the marshes attract vast numbers of migrating birds, fleeing the North Asian winter. But the marshes do not tell the sanctuary's whole story. The woodlands are equally important, harboring as many interesting and exotic species. It is the woodlands and the marshes together that make the great diversity of birds possible, that weave Bharatpur's special magic. Earlier in the year, the monsoon rains failed, something that happens perhaps every 20 or 30 years. It is December now, winter, and only a few patches of water remain on the marshes. Bharatpur's most important visitors, the Siberian cranes, came in spite of the drought. They have a hard time finding their food, the tubers of a sedge, which is normally abundant. Of all the world's cranes, the Siberians are the most endangered. Bharatpur is their only known wintering ground, and each year few of the birds arrive. If the Siberian cranes were fish eaters, like the painted storks and the grey herons, they would have a time of plenty, for a while at least. All the fish that remain are concentrated in the last drying pools. Enosaurus crane, not usually a fish eater, tries his luck at the fishing hole. Black-necked storks catch fish at will, and then thrash them till they are dead. They never swallow a fish alive. The bounty of fish soon attracts an invasion of skilled fishermen, the rosy pelicans. Some of the fish the pelicans swallow must weigh close to 3 kilograms. Most years, a few pelicans come to Bharatpur, but the grass and sedge-filled marshes of a normal season are not easy fishing places. But this winter, there are no water plants left, only a little water, and a lot of fish. In January, 500 rosy pelicans arrived to dredge the pools. Never before had Bharatpur seen so many pelicans. The black-necked storks, seeing their reserve of fish disappear so quickly, resent the invasion, and they try to drive them off. But the pelicans, though temporarily intimidated, do not leave until they have bagged nearly all the fish. Pelicans are amongst the largest of birds with a wingspan of up to 3 meters. It takes great effort to get their 12-kilo bulk airborne, but once aloft, they fly long distances, coming to Bharatpur from their nesting grounds of Central and Western Asia. Some fish are even too large for the pelicans to swallow. After the birds leave the pools, many fish which have been wounded are left floundering in the shallows or cast up on the mud banks. These are ready prey for opportunists, the spotted eagles, crows, marsh harriers, and many others. House crows, which despite their name, are very much at home in the marshes and woodlands and are no match for the big raptors. They can only hover in the background when the spotted eagle feeds. With the much smaller marsh harrier, the crows are bolder and sometimes win their teasing duel. A ring-tailed fishing eagle calls a warning to other birds of prey to keep their distance. A close relative of the American bald eagle. This eagle is not a scavenger. He catches his own fish. Winter time is nesting time for the fishing eagle. And in late January, the pair bring fish to their small young in a huge nest high in a kadam tree. By late February, the last pools have shrunk to mere puddles. Saurus cranes gather round the last mud, sharing it with domestic buffaloes which are allowed to graze in the sanctuary. Most of the Indian flap-shelled turtles have already left the marshes to seek refuge in the woodlands. A few cling tenaciously to the last mud, where they must eventually perish. Only the wading birds enjoy the mud. A little ringed plover stirs the soft ooze with one foot, then pounces on minuscule animals, frightened out of hiding. A common sandpiper also probes the mud. Even the mud has dried by the first week of March. The last turtles wander off, those that can find a hiding place deep in the leaflet of the woodland, or perhaps under a fallen log, will survive till the next monsoon. But most are ambushed before they reach the safety of the woodlands. Vultures descend on them as they wander about. Only one kind of vulture, the white scavenger vulture, can open the flaps in the turtle's shell. The others, the red-headed king vulture and the white-backed vulture, have beaks too large and clumsy. The scavenger vulture, with his sharp and narrow beak, easily opens the turtle's flaps and then eats the defenseless animal alive. Late in March, the weather begins to warm up. Migrating birds like these flamingos are leaving. The marshes are dry and cease to exist. the woodlands, a revival, a renewal takes place that borders on the miraculous. Despite the drought, spring arrives in the woodlands in March, drawing on some unsuspected and unimaginable resources. Shrubs and trees flower and put on new leaves. Insects awaken from their winter torpor. These small bees, going through their pollen dance, are wild but very close relatives of the common honeybee of commercial beehives. The new season brings new birds. The golden oriole has returned from the warmer south. Rosy starlings pause briefly to eat the pilu berries before setting off for their summer nesting grounds in southeastern Europe and the Middle East. Perhaps as a concession to the drought, many parakeets are nesting late. It is mid-March, and this pair have just begun their courtship. The male feeds the female as part of an elaborate ritual that will help bind the pair together for the period from the mating to the fledging of their young. The devotion of this couple is challenged by a second male. For 3 days, the interloper tries to disrupt their pair bond. The challenger gives up in the end, and the original pair inspect an abandoned woodpecker's hole as a possible nest site. Another hole nester, the crimson-breasted barbet, already has young. All day the parents fly back and forth to the peepul tree to gather the wild figs for their chicks. Barbets are relatives of the woodpeckers, and like them, chisel out their own nest holes. This species is better known as the coppersmith because of its incessant hammering calls. The hotter the weather, the more the bird calls. By the time the hoopoe is ready to feed its young, it is mid-April. It is hot. Spring is over. Birds nesting in tree hollows are relatively safe from such marauders as crows and snakes. Those that nest in the open, especially on the ground, are much more vulnerable. They must rely on stealth and camouflage to protect their eggs and young. An Indian rock python, about 4 meters long, is on an early morning hunt. It can detect the presence of the stone curlew. The only way the python could catch the stone curlew is to take it by surprise. Once the snake has been spotted, it is easily eluded. The bird is safe, but the eggs remain in danger. Soon it is too hot for the python to be out in the open, and it must retreat to a cool place. In this case, the burrow of a porcupine, which the two different animals share. Stone curlews, as their large eyes suggest, are nocturnal, and the birds rarely come alive at dusk, when they go out to search for food. Early May. The woodlands are beginning to lose their vigor. Birds sit panting in imperfect shade. As the sun sets in a haze of dust, jackals set out for their nighttime wanderings. Soon, the night birds emerge. A mottled wood owl carries a centipede to its young, closely watched by a spotted owl. A third kind of owl, the dusky horned owl, calls close by. It is a fierce hunter that would not hesitate to grab the wood owl's chicks. The female wood owl, carrying a bat she has caught, flies off to drive the larger owl away. Minutes after dawn, it is baking hot. The woodland too now feels the pinch. Nilgai, India's largest antelope, wander about, searching for browsing and grazing. Early June now. Out on the dry marsh, the temperature is well over 50 degrees Celsius. It is the hottest place in the sanctuary at the hottest time of the year. Yet this is the time and place a pair of red-wattled lapwings have chosen to lay their eggs. Nesting near the breaking of the monsoon, the lapwings time the hatching of their eggs to coincide with the first rains when food will be plentiful once again. That is, if the eggs survive the attentions of the black kites. On June the 21st, dark clouds gather, the first for almost a year. The humidity rises steeply, but the temperature remains high. Bearable dry heat becomes unbearable. On June the 26th, bigger clouds build up, and from now on it rains for part of nearly every day. The monsoon has broken. The first ponds have formed on the marshes. The red wattle lapwing leads her newly hatched young to the muddy edges so that they can feed on insects and other small animal life. Fresh green growth appears almost immediately. And with it begins the influx of waterbirds, dressed in their finest breeding plumage. Though all these birds arrive with the first rains, they will not begin to nest till the marshes have filled. In the woodlands, the transformation is also immediate and dramatic. Turtles which manage to find a hiding place now emerge. Pythons, flushed from their burrows, are forced to take to the water. Though the searing heat of summer has gone, temperatures are still in the high 30s. And in this hothouse atmosphere, vines grow with breathtaking speed. They give these semi-arid woodlands a veneer of green tropical lushness. Insects are quick to seize this tender food supply, and hordes of grasshoppers, beetles, and caterpillars are soon devouring the new growth. With equal rapidity, caterpillars are transformed into pupae, and pupae into butterflies, like this lesser wanderer. Amongst the most voracious chewers of the new leaves are the painted grasshoppers. The new crop of leaf-eating insects bring all kinds of predators in their wake. None are more ferocious than the praying mantis. Aggressive, ravenous, the mantis does not stop to kill its prey. It begins to eat immediately and continues without pause to the last morsel. On a cool, drizzly day in July, termite workers open passages from their underground nests. As soldiers swarm about to protect them, the winged reproductive termites pour out. Only these winged termites, called alates, can reproduce and become kings and queens of future colonies. But most fall victim to predators. Perhaps fewer than 1 in 1,000 of the alates find a mate and start a successful nest. Even a black-throated weaver bird, usually a seed-eater, now feasts on the termites. Another species of weaver bird, the buyer, has begun nesting. Unlike the marsh birds, the weavers do not wait for rising water. The first showers trigger their urge to nest, and by July, their nest building is well advanced. Only the males, dressed in their bright breeding plumage, build nests. The females remain drab and sparrow-like. The only material used in nest building are strips of grass that the bird pulls from the tall blades with his beak. He also uses his beak with great virtuosity to stitch and weave his nest. Fresh green strands contrast with the earlier, now dry material. Weaver birds are neat workers, even tucking in loose ends. The first stage of nest building is a firm attachment to the supporting branch. This is done so thoroughly that the support never gives way, not even in the fiercest monsoon gale. Once the support has been made, the male works at fever pitch for several days till he has woven the so-called helmet stage of his nest, complete with a chin strap. He is now only interested in the visiting females. Singing and beating his wings, he tries to attract her to his helmet nest. The constant chatter and flashing yellow of the male attracts the females to the colony. Once she has inspected a nest and accepted its builder, the pair mate, seated on the chin strap. As the male weaves the egg chamber in the long entrance tube, the female brings a few tiny feathers as lining for the nest. She is now ready to lay the first of her 3 eggs. Late July. The woodlands have put on their mantle of green. Enough water has accumulated in the marshes to excite the sambar, sarus cranes, and other animal life. But for the marsh birds to begin their nesting, man must give a helping hand. Bharatpur's marshes are not filled by the rain alone. Water collected in a dam outside the sanctuary is let in, and enters through this canal. From the canal, the water is fed through sluice gates into the system of marshes, separated by tree-lined dikes. This system was established about 130 years ago by the then Maharaja of Bharatpur. The arrival of new water means the end of hard times for the fishing cat, who until now had to exist on insects, frogs, rodents, and other such small animals as it could catch. But with the new water comes innumerable fish. Fishing cats grow somewhat larger than domestic cats, to a weight of about 12 kilograms. They're of a stocky and muscular build and are known to kill sheep and even dogs. When the marshes are almost filled, and only then, the colony nesting birds begin their courtship, prelude to their breeding cycle, the season of energy and drama on the marshes. Their nest building and the appearance of the first egg are keenly watched by predators and nest robbers. Unlike many other birds, the open-bill storks do not abandon their violated nests. They merely clean them up and lay again. Of the 4 species of egrets that nest in the heronry, none is more splendid than the great egret. Courtship is initiated by the male. He chooses a prominent perch and spreads his nuptial finery, plumes which are grown especially for the breeding season. A female joins the male on his perch. The mating is not a success, and the female is rejected. A new partner joins him and receives a warmer welcome. Courtship over, nest building begins and materials are soon at a premium. A white ibis tries to get some sticks the easy way by stealing them from a pair of grey herons. Toward the end of August, the acacia trees of the colony are studded with thousands of nests belonging to 15 species of birds, ranging from storks to cormorants. A spoonbill brings a thorny branch to his nest-building partner. Only during the breeding season do spoonbills have such luxuriant crests. Once the eggs are laid, There is a period of comparative calm in the heronry. Rain threatens. A male bronze-winged jasana on his floating nest, out on the marshes, prepares for another shower. Rains are less and less frequent by the end of August. There are days on end of warm, even hot sunshine. It is a time when the marshes are at their greenest and the painted storks in their finest plumage. These storks are the last to nest. Mostly they keep to themselves in trees well away from the heronry, which is already noisy with the young, clamoring for food. Painted storks, like all of their kind, have virtually no voices as adults. The sounds of their disputes, their mating and greeting ceremonies are made by the clappering of their beaks. Even after the first egg appears, there are disputes over nesting materials. Egg-laying has begun. The male is attentive to his mate for only a few more days. From now on, the pair take turns at the nest. At sunset, there is a time of increased activity as birds hurry back to their nests or try for that last fish. A pair of sarus cranes greet the dawn with exuberance. Their second egg is about to hatch. The first chick hatched 2 days ago and is already strong on his feet. The chick, by imitating its parents, picks up much of his own food, but he is also fed with great care and solicitude. Its appetite is prodigious. It has to be, for the chick must grow to its full size in less than a year. Adult sarus are the largest of all the world's cranes and stand about 1.5 meters tall. To reach that size, the tiny chick grows about 2.5 centimeters a day. One parent takes care of the young, while the other tries to incubate the hatching egg. The older chick is forgotten as the new one hatches. The parent removes the eggshells. As soon as it has dried, the new chick will also follow its parents, though leaving the nest seems involuntary. In the breeding colony on the marshes, growing young birds are demanding food. Young darters must reach deeply into the parents' gullets to find the fish on which they are fed. The new generation of birds are fed mostly on fish. The unlimited demand coincides with the appearance of a new generation of fish. Fish by the ton, and growing even more rapidly than the birds. Turtles and predatory fish harass the fingerlings, sending flashes and ripples of alarm the full length of the canal. Such profusion of fish attracts a profusion of birds. Mostly cormorants and egrets, gathering food for their young. A pair of median egrets with small babies greet each other. One bird leaves the nest while the new arrival settles over the young. Pulling and tugging at the parent's beak, the chicks eventually stimulate her to disgorge the fish she has caught for them. By mid-September, the marsh harriers return from their breeding grounds in Central Asia. A spot-billed duck valiantly and aggressively defends her eggs, ignoring talons raking at its eyes. A pair of lesser whistling ducks with newly hatched ducklings are watching anxiously, ready to defend their brood. As young birds grow in the heronry, incessantly, noisily calling for food and more food, their parents must spend longer periods fishing. Young ibis, egrets, and cormorants, now almost as large as their parents, demand to be fed in a frenzy that almost amounts to assault. Sometimes this frenzy becomes so intense that it deteriorates into a vicious fight between siblings. It is October now. The monsoon is over. The young are ready to fledge, to go into the marshes on their own. Parents, greeted ever more aggressively by their offspring, eventually abandoned them. About a month behind the other nesting birds, the painted storks are still feeding small young in October. November. The last painted stork chicks are almost ready to leave the nest. Though the nights are cool, it can still be hot during the day, and the painted stork young need to be cooled by a shower from their parents' beak. The heronry is deserted. It is winter again, cool with brilliant light. The marshes have been replenished and are ready to receive an invasion of different birds in even greater number. A trickle of migrating birds has been flying into Bharatpur since September, but the main invasion, which includes these bar-headed geese, is in late October and early November. The migratory birds have flown south for thousands of kilometers to escape the harsh winters of Central and Northern Asia. Bar-headed geese, ducks, waders, and certain eagles fly over the top of the Himalayan mountains to reach Bharatpur, flying at heights estimated at between 9,000 and 17,000 meters. With the arrival of the migrating birds, our year at Bharatpur has come to an end. The winter migration of countless ducks and geese is the reason for Bharatpur Sanctuary's very existence. The marshes were created by the Maharaja of Bharatpur in the 1850s. By augmenting the area's natural depressions with a series of dams, channels, dikes and sluices, the Maharaja has enlarged and deepened the marshes and so attracted more waterfowl for his hunting. Successive Maharajas maintained these marshes as their private shooting reserve for over 100 years. But it was the renowned Indian ornithologist, Dr. Salim Ali, who was the driving force to have the marshes and woodlands made a wildlife sanctuary. Dr. Salim Ali, in the white shirt, sometimes calls on the Maharaja at his palace. Over the years, the two have become friends. As early as the 1930s, Dr. Salim Ali recognized Bharatpur's immeasurable importance as a sanctuary in a world where waterfowl habitat was fast disappearing. In time, he persuaded the Maharaja to his point of view, and the Rajasthan state government declared Bharatpur a bird sanctuary in 1956. A legacy of the hunting days remains inside the sanctuary. The hunting exploits of emperors, kings, viceroys, and maharajas between 1902 and 1964 are inscribed in stone. Some of the bags were stupendous. Top score goes to Lord Linlithgow and his party of 39 guns. On that day, the 12th of November 1938, the Viceroy himself is reputed to have fired 1,900 rounds. Bharatpur is now open to all visitors. Many thousands come from every corner of the world. The birds are no longer hunted, but other pressures have intensified. 7 villages surround the sanctuary, and the people make increasing demands on its resources. To control these pressures, the authorities have built a stone wall enclosing the entire reserve. At each village there is a gate in the wall to allow cattle to enter for grazing. The number of animals permitted to graze fluctuates. There are rarely fewer than 2,000 cows and buffaloes inside the sanctuary on any one day, though usually many more. People from the surrounding villages depend on this grazing for their very existence. Another factor reducing the diversity of its wildlife is the constant, if illegal, wood collecting. The monsoon is a forgiving force. Wounds inflicted by drought and over-exploitation are quickly healed. Desolated brown grassland is restored to greenness. Dry and dead marshes surge with life again. Great are the monsoon's powers of regeneration and renewal are, there is a real danger that they will be stretched beyond their limit. If they are, Bharatpur's magic will be lost forever. What is now the Bharatpur Sanctuary was originally man-made. To this day, man maintains it. But pressures are increasing, and man needs to give stronger support and greater sympathy to the natural elements. If he does, Bharatpur will continue to be one of the world's most exciting waterbird reserves.